Jamie Whincup, he's just talking at the moment to his boss who's tapped his watch, so I'm on the clock here. Fantastic drive yesterday, mate.
Yeah, that was my best sprint round result. Car's very good. We've been working very hard, and it was just great to see. It was the first time we could get to see what everyone was going to be like in a long-distance race. So the cars are shown to be very good, and we've hopefully made some improvements overnight, and we'll be able to go a little bit quicker.
That was my next question. Have you tweaked the car at all?
I don't know what Craig's told you, but I don't think he has. I have. I've made a small tweak just to be able to have a little nicer balance for myself for today.
I'll leave you in peace. Good luck. Roland's starting to stress, and I don't like a stressed Roland. While I'm here, I'll grab Ray Price, who's the new face of Ford Motorsport in Australia. Congratulations on the appointment. You'd be very happy with the way things went yesterday.
Things were very good yesterday, 1 and 3, and a couple further back in the pack. Very pleased with the result.
Fantastic, and fingers crossed you might get another good one today.
I'm sure we will. Thanks
mate.
Neil.
Greg.
The Holden camp are hoping that doesn't happen, Neil. Stephen Richards hoping to be the man at the top of the podium today. How are things this morning on the Jack Daniels Commodore?
Yeah, they're pretty good. We've been suffering an inherent problem since we rolled the car out at the start of the weekend, and I think we may have fixed that this morning. So that'll all bode well for the speed of the car. So yeah, look, it's strategy goes well and things pan out. We're looking okay.
Tough opening day for Stephen Richards, but on the whole though, you feel in the cooler conditions things might suit you.
Yeah, I think so. The indications this morning, the car was definitely better, so we'll just see how the race pans out and get through the early stages and go from there.
Wish you all the very best today, Steve.
Thanks.
There he is, Stephen Richards.
Well, Stephen Johnson, it was a great result yesterday, really, to finish 10th, but you had a bit of a connection there with Bowie during the race, which made things difficult.
Yeah, Daz, it did. It just after that last restart, you got a little bit excited, I think, and played into the side of us and turned me around. So we dropped about 4 spots, but we got it back going again and passed a couple before the finish. And the car's really strong at the end. So looking forward to the last half of the race today.
How about the car as far as adjustments and everything goes? Are there any big changes for today?
No, we made a few little adjustments. Felt it was a slightly bit too soft, so we stiffened it up a little bit, and because we know our tyre life's good, and it was great in the warm-up. We were 6th and 7th in the warm-up, and both cars are looking good.
There's some frantic activity at the back of the grid. You can see some bonnets up. That is one of the FPR cars. There is a major misfire issue, and I believe maybe both FPR cars may be experiencing that. It's Jason Bright's Cat Ford. They're frantically trying to change plugs, and look at the hustle going on.
I think there was an engine change with that car overnight, so they've just continued to have one of those weekends.
And the guys clear the grid now. You don't need that seconds before the start of the Clipsal 500. Warm-up lap coming, and then we will be into it. Can Craig Lowndes make it a perfect weekend? As they fire the engines, and this record crowd is about to see what it has come for. All the hype, all the lead up, all the ceremony, it's over. Now it's down to business. And that's the car they are chasing. Craig Lowndes, 888 Better Electrical Ford. We've run through the storylines from yesterday. We have shown you who was hot, who wasn't, who's feeling ill, who's fatigued. Now the only question that needs to be answered is who will do the business. Same as yesterday, 78 laps the distance, 250k, and compulsory pit stops for tyres and fuel. And that all-important pit window is between 5 and 57. And Neil, most important thing here, the weather is drastically different to yesterday, and it's on the driver's side.
The cloud cover is certainly going to help them from a personal standpoint, personal fitness standpoint. I understand Jason Bright's going to start from pit lane. It'll also change the way in which the cars see the racetrack and the grip available. I've got an up-to-date weather forecast here suggesting that we could see showers as early as 30 minutes from now.
We look at the Mitsubishi Fuso starting grid, and these positions reflect yesterday's finishing positions. A personal best here for Jamie Whincup, a personal best for Cameron McConville. Nice work. And also a personal best for Rick Kelly. So some guys hitting a high note right at the word go. There's some wounded cars out there. There's some wounded drivers. This will be survival of the toughest. And on some counts, Neil, the smartest as well. How you play it, how you get through this 250.
Well, the most important thing out of this weekend, if you haven't got a car that's capable of getting on the podium, is just to get to the end of it. Get points. We know that consistency is rewarded. There are a lot of points on offer for the minor placings. So you've got to be able to get out of here without too much car damage, too much grief. Treat it as something of a test session. Get to Melbourne next weekend, and everybody needs to work backwards from the load date to send the cars to New Zealand.
And of course, remembering at the back of the grid, Mark Scaife, Jason Richards, two guys that experienced adversity yesterday, and James Courtney as well. So we've got some fast guys coming from the back. Stephen Richards had a solid day yesterday. Top 10 finish, he was reasonably pleased with that. 7th, considering where he started, was a good result. The BOC boys feel a little hard done by. They were robbed. They possibly both could have been in the top 10 until late in the race. John Bowe was tangled up with some incidents, had a flat front left, and Brad Jones had some mechanical issues. Can they rectify those today? What can this man do? Garth Tander was fast yesterday, but a 25-second delay in a pit stop with a faulty wheel nut cost him dearly. But nothing went wrong for this man Lowndes. Waiting for the final few cars now on the grid. Now Zinger replay here. Oh, something came off Jason Bright's car there.
He was just on the radio a moment ago before this talking about what he thought might have been a tool left on the car.
Oh no, and he's back in pit lane. Revs rise on the front straight. Part 2 of the Clipsal 500, and it's Kelly. He leads Lowndes on the line. 23-year-old Rick Kelly with a storming start that looked like McConville on the inside. McConville up to second. Brilliant start from the Super Chief man. Lowndes has dropped to third.
Lots of aggravation through the turn 1-2 complex. Kelly's brained them in the first 3 corners, but plenty of people had to motocross their way across the bumps over those curbs.
Contact there between one of the Gary Rogers cars, and Will Davison was hung out wide. Lowndes, then we pick up Todd Kelly, then it's Greg Murphy. Ingles in the mix, so too Stephen Richards. And Jamie Whincup was hustled right back. He's lost about 5 positions as we ride with Lowndes. Look at that lead. Rick Kelly, what a start.
These guys are carrying a big load of fuel. They've got to be a little bit careful in the first half to 3/4 of the lap. The tyre temperature's not there, the tyre pressures are not there. They are scrambling the safety car at the moment, so there may be an incident further down the order. Sometimes they just put it on alert without actually deploying it. We'll wait and watch.
Could that possibly be for that tool on the track? Jason Wright's car.
If there's something in the middle of the road and officials can't safely get to it, then that could be a possibility.
Ingle on Whincup, applying the pressure. Stephen Johnson next in the First Rock Home Loans Falcon. He's got issues from yesterday. Wants to be better. Felt he was robbed. Was sitting in 8th, got turned around, ended up finishing 10th.
Not a good start for Jamie Whincup down there in 8th. 28.6 for Rick Kelly. Car number 15, Rick Kelly, is going to get a drive-through penalty for jumping the start. So Cameron McConville will assume the race lead. Black flag will be shown to Rick Kelly at the end of the lap. Now on the race management radio channel, crews can now interpret a radio message as being the same as a flag signal at the control line on the front straight. So if Eric Pender passes that message on, he'll have heard it on the race management channel to Rick. He can come in and take that stop now.
It's deja vu. Last year Rick Kelly was on pole running strong in race 1 and had to do a drive-through penalty because there were too many.
Drive-through, so jumping the start, so should be now. Drive-through now.
Too many crew members in pit lane. And he's just been instructed to drive through now. Does he obey? Yes, he does. Race leader no more. Cameron McConville, the new man in front.
Are we rolling or what's the go there, mate? I know, mate. I haven't seen it. I was running back from down the bottom. I'll try and find out.
So So this will put him at the very back of the field.
Just put your head down and see if we can get a heap of points out of this, because that's what it's all about.
That's Rob Crawford.
Well, mate, I need plenty of information.
So team manager Rob Crawford just trying to put an experienced hand over a volatile situation there for Rick Kelly.
Oh, and he's come out in the traffic thick and fast and contacts John Bowe. Gives Bowe a little nudge. Kelly will be hot.
I thought he would have fired further down the back of the field. He's at least not right at the very back.
He's come in some pretty thick traffic. Jason Barguana trying to rebound from yesterday. Had a dynamic drive.
Fastest lap of the race, Stephen Richards, a 1:23.8. He's 6th at the moment. The order is McConville, Lowndes, Kelly, Murphy, Tander, Stephen Richards, Whincup, Ingle, Johnson, and Paul Morris 10.
How about this? Talk about making a good move. Cameron McConville joins the Super Cheap Auto PWR organisation this year. He's come up with a personal best on the streets of Adelaide yesterday, and now he is the race leader. Life's good for McConville.
Good initial turn-in speed for Lowndes then. Making a little ground on McConville on the run to the apex of the corner. Cameron's car is coming off very strongly though.
With Lowndes. Centre chicane.
Pretty soon the compulsory pit stop window opens if the teams choose to make the tyre stop. We saw that yesterday. A number of people came in pretty early, electing to change only 2 rears. Look how hungry Murphy was across the turn 4 curbing on the inside there. He had almost the entire car across to the right-hand side.
Todd Kelly in 3rd, feels he is owed something from yesterday.
The real issue here is, do you play a game and roll the dice and flip the coin? Because if it is going to rain, you don't want to take the compulsory stop too early, or you're then forced to take 2 stops instead of 1. Some people are clearly going to play that game, and we'll need to watch for the flags, because as the wind becomes more southerly, it's currently southeasterly, that'll be the thing to watch.
Look at this, Tander applying the pressure to Murphy, and ducks on the inside. He's got Murphy, outside, inside, and the move has paid off. Can Murphy come back? They're side by side, Tander's got him. Smart driving.
Great move.
Grabs a position from the Super Cheap man. So Tander adds another one. While his teammate went backwards, Tander's going forwards.
Courtney's done the fastest lap of the race, a 23.6.
Quickly, I tried to get a word in at Ford Performance Racing a moment ago. Both David Richards, the head of Ford Performance Racing, and George Howard Chappell, who heads up the Aston Martin program, did not look happy when Jason Bright pitted before this race actually got underway. Now, I can tell you the coil assembly, which is actually mounted just outside that inner guard above the left front wheel on Bright's car, was not bolted down properly for some reason. I could see the boys, they've zip-tied it down, but for some reason a small problem by the sounds of things has not been perhaps sealed down properly while they were on the grid there before they ventured off on the warm-up lap. So tough start for Jason Bright.
Well, they did an all-nighter on Friday. They had more technical problems yesterday, and finger trouble can become an issue when everyone's so stressed in a team, so you can forgive them if there was a mistake made.
I'll tell you what, if Rick Kelly's jumped that start, that is marginal. That was hard to see. Obviously, we're on the long lens. That's an interesting one. Scaife has made good progress.
23.4, fastest lap of the race for the race leader, Cam McConville. 3/4 of a second margin. That's the replay again. There may be more to that story. I understood it to be for the start. Maybe it wasn't. Perhaps it was another issue. Yeah, it didn't look like it, did it?
I disagree with that call if it was for a jump start. Back to the front, McConville, Lowndes, Todd Kelly. I asked Lowndes earlier in that interview in the tech centre, what about Tander and Todd Kelly? Because they felt they were robbed yesterday. And he said, we'll see what happens. Well, he's got company because Kelly is with him now.
Well, Lee, right now I've just come out of that garage and I spoke to Rob Crawford. I said, what was the penalty? Was it a jump start? Were you rolling? He said, I don't know. We haven't heard anything. And I think that team's busy also because Garth's in a big battle with Murphy.
Yeah, Tander's running fine, just fine. But look at the pressure that Todd Kelly is applying. We've seen it so many times before here on the streets of Adelaide. He's not afraid to give him a nudge. Riding with Lowndes, looking at Kelly. And that's how they sit, 1, 2, 3. There's a gap back to Tander in 4th. Murphy still 5th. Super slow-mo, the Zinger replay. We're looking for debris, and that's just a big chunk of paint. By the looks of it, big chunk of blue paint coming off the ground.
They're going to pit Mark Scaife this lap and take him out of traffic. He's got good car speed. That's typical of the pounding that the curbing gets here. And often it flakes off more and more and more as the day goes on. You actually get more grip once it's gone because the paint's pretty slippery.
Lowndes openly admitted yesterday and today that he didn't have the pace to run with the Holdens, but he raced better. Their strategy was better and things went his way better. And you're seeing here that he can't make any inroads on Cam McConville. And he's having a fierce battle with Todd Kelly. Here we go. This is Whincup, first of the Triple Eight cars. First of his 2 compulsory stops.
Okay, mate, where you going? Where you going? Watch your pit speed, watch your pit speed.
Third place yesterday for 23-year-old Jamie Whincup. And that was one of the Tasman cars being serviced, either Jason Richards, and here's James Courtney in.
There was no changes, Lee, to Jamie Whincup's car. Just rear tyres safe for James Courtney. Good slick stop by Courtney. There are some brush marks down the side of that car, so some sort of contact somewhere down the driver's side. I've also grabbed the officials here in pit lane and had a quick word to them. They tell me at the moment the reason for the drive-through penalty associated with Rick Kelly is definitely for jumping the start.
Well, they're looking at different TV screens to us. Back at the front, Cam McConville. A new father over the off-season, pretty pleased about that. And now his racing is as good as it's ever been. A one-time race winner in V8 Supercars. That was under very interesting circumstances at Winton a couple of years ago when he passed Rick Kelly with 1 lap to go. And now he leads race 2 of the Clipsal 500. 23.2 for McConville. Lap 7, new fastest lap of the race. So good speed today. Kind of expected in these better conditions. Fastest lap yesterday was a 23.6. So the racetrack is 0.4 quicker today than it was yesterday. Okay, for all you folks at home, you can join us and have another look at this replay of the start. Does the car closest to us go early? No. Certainly didn't look like it, did it? If anyone went first, it was Lowndes. Anyway, we're not the officials, we're not the bosses. Here's Stephen Richards in the Jack Daniels Commodore. Makes an inside move on Murphy, and Murphy almost contacts his former teammate. The Jack Daniels car moves up 1 position higher. Stephen Richards now in the top 5. With the second place, Craig Lowndes. Race leader up ahead, Cam McConville. Less than a 1 second lead. Let's enjoy this ride with Lowndes. See if he can make any inroads.
lap 10, mate, lap 10. Good job, just keep on working that, nice and smooth.
Tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage after a severe contact with a turn 8 wall. He's got a pretty stiff and sore neck. But the multi-time champion, the multi-winner here on the streets of Adelaide, is charging through the field. Neil, we've seen him do it before. He's doing it again.
And once you get a safety car and the field compresses, provided that you're not too far out of the cycle with your tyre stop and your fuel stop, then you can be back in the game for sure. What is interesting, Lee, is that people are doing what I suggested before. They're playing the waiting game. They're having a think about whether or not the radar's telling them the weather's coming. They're trying to delay the compulsory tyre stop just in case it does get wet, and they can put the wet tyres on, and that'll essentially save them a stop. New fastest lap of the race and a brand new lap record on lap 10 for Jamie Whincup. 1:23.02.09. Now Todd Kelly set a record, then Mark Winterbottom set a record, and then Jamie Whincup has further eclipsed that, and they're moving it in little increments, hundreds and thousandths of a second at the moment. So a 23 round here in race trim is very good, and that's because they're burning some fuel off at the rate of about 2.3 litres a lap there or thereabouts. There's cloud cover. Cars are getting lighter, the tyre pressures are normalised, the track's cleaned up, they've found their race groove, and we're going to see continued improvement in that, I imagine.
This time last year, race 2, a year ago, Marcus Ambrose, the eventual race and round winner, set that lap record. Now that belongs to Whincup. We've got a different angle of the race start, and that's a point of controversy at the moment on the Zinger replay because Rick Kelly was accused of jumping the start and he had to perform a drive-through penalty for it. On lap 12 of this 78-lap event, that is the second half of the Clipsal 500, 250k, all by themselves, no driver changes, just 2 compulsory pit stops, 1 for tyres, 1 for fuel. And it's how you play that strategy when you come in, where you are on the track. Can often be the difference between winning and losing. This is our reigning champion, Russell Ingall. Currently sits 7th.
1:22.8 for Jason Richards. Wally Story, chief engineer, did bring him in early. I discussed it with him before the start of the race as Scaife comes in for his compulsory tyre stop. Now, what Wally was mostly concerned about was Jason being tangled up in traffic. He knew that he had good car speed. He didn't want to waste time around the back of the pack. So he's plucked him out of the race early, put the tyres on it, put him back out in clean air. Now he's making very good lap speed.
As Scaife is released, one of the new faces to the V8 Supercar Championship Series. Well, he was in it. Then he went back to the Development Series. He's a 2-time Development Series champion. Young Dean Canto of Sydney has come from 20th to 10th. in a matter of 13 laps. That's an outstanding performance. He's doing well in that Valvoline Cummins Gary Rogers car. He's a very determined character, Dean Canto, so if Gary Rogers can provide him with a reasonable car, I'm sure that he'll do good things with it, Darryl.
Robbie Crawford, you saw a different angle of that restart there. It's pretty hard to say that Rick did jump the start.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but maybe the guys up and race officials perceived better than what I could.
It's obviously a tough race yesterday, and this is a tough event. It's got to get his head down now and concentrate. It's a long way to go.
Sorry, mate, I can't hear anything I've got.
It's a tough event and a tough race. He's just got to get back in there and push on, and maybe some weather may even turn up later in the race.
Yeah, look, Rick's taken it not that well, but he's pushing on. I think he's the fastest car out there at the moment, so hopefully we can get something back for the day.
Thanks, Robbie.
Thanks.
Well, he certainly is the fastest car out there. A new lap record of 1:22.96 to Rick Kelly, and he's come back up to 14th place.
Well, Rob's being correct, politically correct, certainly at the moment, in making sure that he's reserved in his thoughts and remarks on that. But certainly interesting to look at those pictures. Of course, what we don't see in any of that is precisely where the green light triggers, but it didn't appear to be, I've seen a lot worse, put it that way, it didn't appear to be a jump start, but we'll no doubt hear more about it. One of the things that Peter Wallerman, the investigating and prosecuting officer, did point out in no uncertain terms, clear plain English to anybody that was in the room present, I think it was Thursday night, we don't mind you guys having an opinion. Happy to debate things in a realistic manner, but if you slag us, we'll jump on you like a ton of bricks, which I think is fair.
Neil, one of the things I just wanted to pick up on, you discussed before about people playing a waiting game and when to judge their compulsory stop for tyres. Even the engineers seem to be relying quite heavily on the driver for input in this regard. And I know Mark Scaife was the man who called his own stop before and said, right, I'm coming in for tyres, boys. There was no adjustments to Scaife's car when he came in. And it seems to be a similar scenario up at the Toll HSV dealer team. I think they've been relying on the driver input in that regard. Cameron McConville, prior to this race, said to me that his car in the morning warm-up had been exceptionally kind to its rear tyres on a full tank of fuel, and crucially, he had very good turn-in. McConville doing a great job at present.
A good effort by Jose Fernandez to start from 13th today, guys, but he's got a fuel surge problem which has caused him to drop back through the field. And let me tell you, when they showed the replay of Rick Kelly's start down here, the grandstand erupted in a chorus of boos. The Holden fans looked like they were just about ready to jump the fence.
Car 18, Will Davison, serviced and released, and that young man, the new driver for Dick Johnson Racing, yesterday had a very strong latter half of the race. In fact, in the last 25 laps, racing laps, he set a time that was good enough in the top 5 fastest laps of the race, so keep an eye on him.
Just back to the matter of the start, there's a series of judges of fact along the start line, and in a judge of fact scenario, those nominated people, of which there are 5, they make a decision. It can't be contested, you can't protest it, you can't argue it. The decision's made, you have to live by it. So Rob Crawford's hesitancy to make comment on it is wise, and what they've got to do, of course, is try and keep the lid on Rick Kelly now so that he doesn't explode in the car, manage him. There will be a safety car, or we assume there will, based on history, and he could well end up back in the game with a competitive car. The last thing they want him to do now is to blow steam out the side of his helmet and completely fuse what could be a good race.
Well, he's not out of touch, that's for sure. Jumped up to 12th now. And the majority of the front runners staying out, which is in reverse to yesterday, but those who stayed out longer before they came in for their first compulsory stop were rewarded, and one of those drivers is leading this race today, Cam McConville, as we ride with the champion, Ingle.
Russell said to me earlier that he thought his car was a little better after the warm-up this morning, and reflecting that at the moment. He's in 7th position, 23.4 is his best lap, and look at his sector splits. He's running with the pack pretty well at the moment. Great shot here of the Dunlop control tyre with extreme stresses. Look at that. You can see the rim poking out under load coming off the turn 9 hairpin. This is turn 11. You don't see quite as much flex there. The unweighted side of the car on the left side. You'll see it here when it comes up to the final corner, turn 13. Look at that. That's 12. This is 13 under brakes.
Pits.
Oh, and he locked the rear brakes a little on the way to the pits then.
I thought Russell was very composed yesterday.
He said just starting to balance out. So I think you're effectively saying he doesn't want any changes. He's got the left window down.
He could so easily have spat the dummy yesterday, but he didn't. He kept his head about him. And that's what he was why he was rewarded with a top 10 finish. Lights it up out of pit lane.
Flicks the pit lane speed limiter off on the car and releases it from the 40k limit. And in first gear, 7,500 revs, 600 horsepower, they fire sideways. Now he's got to warm that set of tyres on the rear, but they come up very quickly on the rear for obvious reasons, far quicker than on the front.
Neil, it's interesting you spotted that Russell's window down. Ross Stone said to me this morning, he said in both James Courtney and Russell Ingle's car, we're going.
We've lost Darrell there with an audio glitch.
I think what he was going to say was that heat exhaustion and temperature in the cabins was an issue for both those guys, and the engineers encourage the drivers to keep the windows up, because with the windows up, the car sees the airflow much better, and you get a better and more correct airflow to the rear wing. When you bring the windows down, it greatly disturbs the airflow and increases the drag on the car. Try telling that to a bloke when it's 60 degrees, nearly 2 hours into a motor race. The last thing on your mind is 0.1% of drag.
The order's being jumbled because of these stops, but this is how it sits as the pressure is mounting on McConville. 50, and the Super Cheap Commodore is that man. Then Lowndes, then Todd Kelly, Garth Tander, the gap back to him in 4th. Then Stephen Richards is 5th. Murphy, Johnson, Dumbrell, Rick Kelly 9, Paul Morris 10.
And Rick is still pretty animated on the radio, but he's just had confirmation of his position. He's in position 9, as he pointed out, but he is the fastest man consistently on the racetrack at the moment. So I reckon from the toenails up, he's pretty cranky at the moment, and he's squeezing plenty out of this car.
Zinger replay, the slow-mo. Look at Lowndes. Airborne. The Triple H Falcon flies.
Look at this.
Inside move, new race leader. Lowndes is not going to give up. Pushes McConville wide, extra wide, and Kelly takes the lead. An ambitious move from Lowndes, and there's debris.
They come in, front end.
And it's his front splitter. That whole front area has been torn off as he goes over. And he is coming in this time.
That's
oh, no, he's not. Yeah, he's just trying to arrest that, isn't he?
We're ready for you. Just take your time. Watch the pit lane.
Be careful there, because if you drive over the ripple strip there, that's an infringement.
4 tyres, 4 tyres.
4 tyres is the word. Damage to the front left guard, damage to the front air dam.
Craig, lever up, lever up. Lever forward, sorry, lever forward.
And you can see that the steering wheel's right hand down, so there's some steering damage as well.
Our race winner yesterday. There's been a hiccup.
Remember I said early in the show, when you try to pass at turn 9, you have to get it done early. If you try and pull it off too late, the other guy commits to the turn in, and there's nothing he can do, so the contact is inevitable.
New front end got to be put on this.
Now they'll have to watch here. If they go a lap down, then very difficult to recover from it. Here it is. He thought about it very early, but it wasn't until he got to virtually the apex that they made the contact. And I don't think Cam knew he was there either.
The door was open, but then Lowndes just came through a little late.
And you may wonder at home how that could be. When you sit in a V8 supercar, you have very little peripheral vision due to the helmet, the wings on the seat, the roll cage and the rear wing, and you sit further back and further to the centre than you do in a road car. So rearward vision in these cars is a real issue.
Craig Lowndes, not bulletproof. We saw him make an error at Bathurst when he was leading. And another error there while going for the lead. There's the gap first to second. Todd Kelly, new race leader. Cam McConville, car seems, Neil, undamaged.
Got a whack in the door, but I don't think that's going to be any major issue there. It didn't look to me like he actually copped a hit in the wheel, which is the critical thing. Meantime, great news for Todd Kelly. 1:23.08, fastest lap for him, leading at the moment, 2.7 second margin.
We just don't want to damage it all going over the
Here it is again, from the other angle, Zinger replay. And carted them both wide over the top of the ripple strip. No grip out there. Todd Kelly just goes straight through on the right-hand side.
Thanks, boys.
And that's when you have a little smile in your helmet. And away he goes. Now, yesterday, didn't quite get the right bounce of the ball when it came to the second stop for the compulsory fuel stop. And he missed the opportunity to come in. Just a little confusion between he and engineer Matthew Crawford when things were busy. And all of a sudden, there was a safety car intervention. And certain people were advantaged by it and others were disadvantaged. Todd had to do an extra lap, and that hurt.
Here we go. This is the Zinger replay of Lowndes trying to get into pit lane. Whoa, look at Tander run wide. And it was a late entry into the lane.
I don't know that Craig's going to actually get away with that, because I don't think he can drive over that ripple strip on the entry to pit lane. And obviously not his fault, because he had a problem with the car, so wouldn't respond, although when you tend to argue those situations, what they'll say to you is you need to take due care.
A little bit of suspension damage. Just be cautious on these first couple of laps. Just give Jamie some room there, mate. Give Jamie some room.
Helps his teammate out as Whincup comes through.
Have a good feel round and before you get into it. We've got 4 tyres on it, splitters on good. We just want to make sure it's all tracking true.
So he's dropped a lap or two.
2 laps.
2 laps down. So his day's going to get pretty scrappy from here on. It can be a useful test session, and he will get points, and that's an important thing to underline in the way the championship is structured.
And Neil, I think his day is about to perhaps get even worse. The officials here in pit lane tell me, as you saw on that replay, of the difficulties Craig and Dew are trying to get the car across that blend line there coming into pit lane. It is under investigation.
Yeah, no surprise there, and that'll, I'm sure, unfortunately fall the wrong way for Craig and Triple Eight. 3.4 second margin now for Todd Kelly. He's opening the gap on Cam McConville, and maybe McConville is a fraction slower. 23.7 on the last lap for him, 23.2 for Kelly.
Go. Right, CPS light off, CPS light off.
Safety car intervention on lap 22. And a whole pile of people coming into... Now, that's interesting. They're taking fuel on for Ingle.
Wait.
That's not... They won't be able to get to the end on that fuel.
All right, go. You're all clear.
Might be wrong, but going to crunch some numbers on that. But I didn't think the fuel window opened for most teams until lap 30 or thereabouts. Jason Bright, terrible day for Ford Performance Racing. Well, it depends on how you split the numbers here in terms of the fuel. If you're using 2.3 litres a lap from here on in, you need 128.8 litres of fuel. So it depends on how much you use, surprise, surprise. So if there is another safety car, these guys will get out of jail. If there's not another safety car and they have to run hard, there could be some people running on fumes at the end. Welcome back to Adelaide. We've had a lot of activity in the last couple of minutes. The safety car's been deployed, and that's served as an opportunity for many people to come in and take service. Some are taking tyres. Quite a number of significant players are taking fuel, and that's an interesting question. Lowndes has taken on fuel. Stone Brothers took on fuel for Russell Ingle. And obviously these figures are rubbery because things change in motor racing, but the rough guide is that they're burning about 2.3 litres a lap. And we've got 23 laps done. A 78 lap race, and so by my calculations there's the problem exiting turn 7 for Mark Winterbottom, and that's the reason why they brought the safety car out, I understand. Now, according to my calculations, from the point where they are, they need 128.8 litres of fuel to get to the end. Now, the cars only carry 120. Some people, trouble here in the pit lane between Greg Murphy and one of the DJR cars, Stephen Johnson. They'll be gambling on there being another safety car intervention, or indeed a longer safety car period here, or drivers what's described as short shifting, not using all of the available 7,500 revs. That's assuming that the fuel burn numbers that I've got are correct. And they do vary substantially, not only from team to team, but also driver to driver and on the day. So a few people feel that it's close enough to their window to get the job done. Cam McConville's showing as the leader at the moment. He's been picked up by the WPS Chrysler safety car. And I think the lights are out on it. Second is his teammate, Greg Murphy. Mark Scaife is in third position for HRT, but he's not showing that on the road at the moment. There's some lap traffic in there. Dean Canto is fourth. Andrew Jones is fifth. Paul Morris sixth. Max Wilson, Jamie Whincup, Todd Kelly and Paul Radisich. It'll take a little while, folks, for us to unravel who's done what in terms of tyres and fuel. Right now, we go racing once again on lap 24.
McConville is your man. And we can confirm that Lowndes has been given a black flag for that illegal entry to pit lane. It was too late. He crossed the yellow line. In fact, he was crossing that broad painted area. So he'll have to perform a drive-through penalty.
Still don't quite understand why the safety car, because the Winterbottom incident looked reasonably standard up there. Just turned himself around and got cracking again. So there might be another issue that was critical around the track that forced race director Tim Schenken to make that decision. Triple Eight confirmation on the radio from Tim Schenken that the Lowndes car must drive through pit lane for an incorrect entry to the pit lane.
Second place, Greg Murphy. Third place, Mark Scaife.
Now, Russell Ingall's done tyres and fuel. Lap 17 for tyres, fuel on lap 23. Others have done both. James Courtney, tyres on lap 7, fuel on 23. Mark Winterbottom's done both. Stephen Richards has done both, and he did them a lap apart. We've seen that strategy work very well before under safety car. Paul Dumbrell's done both. You can see the thread running through teams. Both Rick Kelly and Garth Tander have done both, 2 laps apart. Stevie Johnson's done both. Todd Kelly's done both at HRT, and that was Craig Lowndes coming into the pit lane. There he is on the left side of screen, so that message got through on the race management channel. So in terms of the net position as to who's done what, I think that it could be Jamie Whincup that's best positioned there. I have to think about that for a tick.
Neil, that was just, for me, those flurry of pit stops, a reminder of the incredible intensity of this championship now, and I guess on occasions how dangerous a place like pit lane can be if you're not keeping your eyes peeled. As Russell Ingall fired into pit lane, he just fractionally missed one of the Triple Eight staff members here in the lane working on one of their cars, and that near miss involving Greg Murphy and Stephen Johnson. I'm not sure if there was contact. I couldn't see from where I was standing, but if there was, I'm told by the officials that is under investigation when Junior peeled out of pit lane across Murth's path.
And we've got a problem for Cameron McConville, who leads this motor race. On the race channel, I just heard black flag penalty for Cam McConville in car number 50, so he must do a drive-through penalty. We'll establish why in a moment.
First of all, the initial race leader, Rick Kelly, was black flagged. Now the race leader at this time, Cameron McConville.
They ran over a hose. They ran over a hose in pit lane for Cam McConville. He locks up to get it into the lane, so he doesn't do what Craig Lowndes did. He relinquishes the lead of the motor race. On the computer timing at the moment, that should be Greg Murphy.
Mark Scaife. Scaife just went by Murphy. Scaife leads the race from the back of the grid. In that car that was wrecked yesterday, an all-night performance from the Holden Racing team members. They're tired, they're weary. Scaife is injured. He's got a very stiff and sore neck, but he's not letting it show.
Car 5, pit lane drive-through penalty, Mark Winterbottom.
Well, they're handing out the penalties today.
And he overtook the safety car before he was waved through by the safety car. He failed to follow the instructions of the safety car crew. So black flag for car number 5, Mark Winterbottom. So Ford Performance Racing weekend, unfortunately, is a pretty black one.
And the car at the front of this group, Will Davison, is fighting to stay on the lead lap. He needs a yellow. Otherwise, he's going to be swallowed up, and he is. He lets the race leader, Mark Scaife, come through. Darryl.
Super Cheap Auto team, I've just come out of there and actually spoken to the driver that was in that car last year, Paul Wheel. He said we ran over DJR's hose, and that's what the problem was, and it nearly damaged the side of McConville's car as well when he left, because he nearly collected back of Stephen Johnson. The pit lane was chaos.
Both Jack Daniels cars did refuel during that safety car period. Now, I asked Barry Ryan if they had enough to get to the end. He said, mate, pray for safety cars, pray for safety cars. And if that's not enough, guys, there's just a slight raindrop or two down here in the pit lane.
That's interesting. And because in normal circumstances, if it was an absolutely guaranteed dry race, you'd say at the moment that, as we guessed before, Jamie Whincup's in good shape because he's the first guy in this queue that's done both the compulsory stops. But of course, if everybody has to dive in for wets, then there's no net gain in his scenario at the moment. The other guy that's right in this mix that's done the 2 stops is Todd Kelly. So Todd Kelly and Jamie Whincup are currently 7th and 6th respectively. Kelly 7th, Whincup is 6th. Another pit lane drive through. Car 17, Stephen Johnson.
And that's for that contact with Murphy. In pit lane, exiting their respective pit boxes. Word from the 888 camp is they believe Whincup has just enough fuel to get to the end from here. And there he is, battling with Todd Kelly. 3rd place yesterday. What a debut in his new team. And now he's fighting off the man who really felt he should have won the race yesterday. This is a ripper, a much better race than yesterday. So much has happened already and we've still got 50 laps to go.
So will it rain? I'm looking at the flags and the pit straight, and they're certainly pointing more southerly now than they were earlier. Roland Dane, Ludo Lacroix on the left, engineer for Jamie Whincup, Derek Warwick, former Formula 1 driver behind him, and then on the right, Ian Harrison, former team manager for the Williams Formula 1 team. Peter Butley in there as well, all the senior management, Campbell Little, a whole bunch of them there. And I'm looking on a radar sweep, and the weather to the southwest of Adelaide at the moment looks pretty dirty.
Kelly is pushing the envelope big time, and it's cost him a position. Brad Jones comes back on him. He's in a dice right there with the Team BOC boys, and it looks like he's got Russell Ingall in the mix as well.
Stop there.
The strangest things can happen at the Futsal 500. Look at this. For rising star Andrew Jones of Tasman Motorsport. Bonnet has come up, smashed the windscreen. Damage on the front. He's obviously nudged someone quite substantially, and then whack. replay showing he suddenly goes blind and he's got to do a full lap. That happened on the front straight.
Wow. Not a good place for it to happen. Well, there is no good place for it to happen. Damage to the windscreen also, and that's going to delay them for a while. They won't be thrilled about the world seeing their airbox either.
No. Zinger replay here. Watch Rick Kelly. Pushes it a bit too hard at the final turn. Brad Jones says thanks. Russell Ingall says thanks. And they squabble. And another Zinger replay here. That's what happened with Andrew Jones. Got into the back of Marcus Marshall on the last turn.
So his bonnet problem was self-inflicted. He'll probably get a penalty for that, I imagine. Oh my goodness, look at the amount of rubbish in the front of that thing.
Now, is that the Craig Lowndes debris?
Have a look at it. Massive amount of it. Oh, some of it just rattled out then. Super slow-mo showed some of it disappearing beneath the car. Maybe okay. There's a little bit on the left near the left side front brake air duct. Maybe a little bit in the air intake. Let's have another look. That's not good news for the brakes. In fact, that's almost got the air duct for the left side front completely masked. That'll be a real problem. He needs to know about that. The boys will be onto it because he'll be starting to very quickly realise something doesn't feel quite right in the brake department.
Cam McConville, James Courtney, Zinger replay. Courtney runs wide at turn 4. Bang. It has been an eventful weekend for James Courtney in his first drive as a full-time V8 supercar driver.
He tried to give room then to McConville, and he paid the price, came out of the race groove. There's absolutely no grip on these street circuits. He's probably not been on very many street circuits in his career internationally, but that's a bad mistake to end up one wide there and end up climbing the curb. So I'm sure after all this activity this weekend for James, he'll sit down, have a long, hard think about it. And I understand that Scaife will be in this lap for fuel in car 2.
If you've just joined us, 2 compulsory pit stops. 1 for tyre, 1 for fuel. Now this is Scaife scooping this up.
He found it quite accurately. Oh, have a look at it. What is it? I can't work out what it is, in fact. Looks like it's metallic by the way that it actually bent. So anyway, they're taking their fuel stop, so they'll just lift it away from the front of the car. It might be the bonnet support panel for Andrew Jones' car.
That'd make sense. That's where it all went up, wasn't it? So Murphy inherits the race lead as the HRT boys go to work on the front of Scaife's car. Canto is second, Wilson is third.
Did you get hit with that down there then, Rusty?
Wait, ready, go.
Not quite, Neil. Just making sure everything was okay with Mark's stop. Then the officials have been keeping an eye on that debris. We might try and show a shot of it. I think it's exactly as you predicted. In fact, it went flying into our tech centre here as the boys ripped it off the front of Mark Scaife's car. And I can also tell you too that I know you've been wanting to know about some of the teams and how close to the bone they are in terms of fuel economy right now. Well, car 16, Garth Tander, is a little touch and go. The team are keeping a close eye on that, but unfortunately for him, he's lost total radio communication. There is a sign on by. They may have to use it to tell Tander to conserve fuel.
So that looks like it was part of the front air dam splitter, Greg. It's carbon fibre, not metallic, so my bonnet support panel theory is wrong. Incidentally, car 23, Andrew Jones, has been given a drive-through penalty for nudging into the back of that car at turn 13.
Edging ever so close to the halfway point of the Clipsal 500. Ingall, currently 10th, finished 9th yesterday. And the way the weekend started for this man, that's not a bad effort.
Sort of chance to catch your breath and stop and think about this motor race at the moment, isn't it? It's been hectic in the last 15 or 20 laps. Murphy's got a 3-second margin from Canto. Wilson third, Whincup fourth. Whincup has done both those critical stops. Murphy, on the other hand, has only done tyres on lap 23. Now the Scaife stop for fuel is much more in the standard positioning for fuel, much like we saw yesterday, and that is your fuel window becomes available to you around about lap 30 or thereabouts. There's Andrew taking that drive through in the Sleepyhead Tasman Motorsport car, a new deal signed for Tasman Motorsport just this past 7 days. And
That's a productive run that's come to an end. He was doing a good job, Andrew Jones, and did so yesterday.
So young Greg doing a bit of finger modelling again. So that's the base out of the front split of the air dam on the car, and it's number 23. Thank you, Gregory.
Still got those hairy knuckles. I thought he would have got those waxed over Christmas.
Get back to work, you monkeys.
So it's Murphy, Canto, Wilson. Those three yet to stop. And then Whincup. What a story that would be. 23-year-old Victorian Jamie Whincup, who recently moved to the Gold Coast. In fact, shares a place with Will Davison. Since joining the Triple Eight team, is in the box seat to perhaps grab his first ever V8 Supercar victory, but we're not halfway yet. Lot of work to do. And look at these guys. The BOC boys feel they've got a chance as well. Brad Jones had some leaking oil from his gearbox yesterday. That put paid to his efforts late in the race after coming from in the 20s, about 23rd to 10th. It was a fine drive. And if you weren't with us yesterday, the big news in BOC land, they now carry Stone Brothers engines. And they feel that's made a big difference.
The interesting thing for Bradley, who's played the strategy game pretty well over the years with a lot of NASCAR experience as well, is just how they delay their fuel stop, or whether they can, assuming they started with 120 litres of fuel, which they may not have. They may run long, and it could take them out to as far as about lap 50 or thereabouts.
Look at this.
They'd be banking on some other kind of safety car intervention to give them a free kick here at the moment. They're down in 11th and 13th.
Jones and Ingle are scrapping it out. Dumbrell's in the mix. Wasn't feeling too well this morning, Paul Dumbrell.
Something under the back of Russell's car there. Something flapping right at the rear of Russell's car.
Oh, Ingle thinks about making an inside move on Radicic. Does it. Radicic gives him room.
Well,
and now comes back. And he's got the preferred line for the centre chicane. Will Ingle yield? Yes, he does. He has to. The Rat's got the better line.
It delays Russell, though, so he'll get assaulted when they get up to turn 4 if he's not careful. Mixed in there is Dumbrell.
And here comes Rick Kelly.
There's trouble brewing here, folks. Get all this lot together and I start getting aches in places that I've felt this before.
McConville's there, Tander's there. And Lee Holdsworth's not too far out of the mix either.
It's on the back of Russell's car here. It's a little bit of the heat shield, I think, off the bottom of the car. Under the bottom of the, that's where the fuel tank area is.
Not too much of a drama, is it?
Doesn't appear to be.
Radicic at the head of this line, then it's Ingle. Here comes Dumbrell, car 11 on the inside of Brad Jones, turn 9, gotcha. Then Tander does it as well. Tander comes through. Jones has lost 2 spots, McConville gets sideways. Bowles looking for an opportunity through. All these guys trying to break into the top 10. You'd think they're fighting for the lead.
We're on board there with Garth, and he just hit the hard cut on the rev limiter a little longer there in the change from 4th to 5th. Or Russell had the rear brakes locked. He's trying to get up the inside of Paul Radicic, but he can't get the job done. He's flicked the headlights on. He's starting to get impatient. Dumbrell buys in. They've all got the lights going.
I love watching you twitch up here when it gets close.
Arms and legs start going.
Your feet start pumping. Radicic is kind of teasing Ingle, isn't he, on that final turn? Opens the door, but then has the momentum to continue on.
The other thing that they've been told to do is to race on the racing line, and if they're going to move off the racing line, do it once and stay there. Don't zigzag across the road. There's a renewed vigour and renewed effort to try and make sure that everybody, there's the contact between McConville and Brad, former teammates, to try and make the racing close and clean.
This is the move.
Turn 8.
Boy, that's
just a whisker over 200 k's across the middle of that corner. They approach it at 235. Big rush down the inside into 9 for Tander. The rear brakes are locked. He gets through on Dumbrell. Ingle goes through on Radicic. Great racing.
It's a question of how long could the Rat hang on, and the Team Kiwi racer finally had to give there to Russell Ingle. Now, can Russell make good work of this and skip away? Because Tander is coming. Up front, Murphy still has not pitted. Canto in second still has not pitted, and nor has Wilson. They all need to stop for their second.
Barry Hay would have been chewing his fingernails in the last couple of laps, and now he's just establishing with Russell where you are on the road. He's talking about it in net terms. He's saying P5. In fact, Russell's in position 8.
Here we go, here we go. Tander on Radicic. No worries.
And the reason that he said P5 is he's talking about people who've he's factoring in people who've not yet taken their second stop for fuel. So Russell did tyres lap 17, he did fuel lap 23. He's trying to give a picture to Russell to keep him encouraged, keep the incentive there, let him know that he's in a good position at the moment.
But if it's touch and go with fuel, does he have to conserve or can he go for it?
Well, they're using it all at the moment. I mean, these blokes are using all 7,500 revs in every gear. There's no short shifting or being gentle when they're trying to make places.
Radicic is dropping. He's lost another 2. Dumbrell, McConville go through. Then the BOC boys are lining up for a shot as well.
The message comes through on the radio to several drivers that they've now completed just a little past half race distance. Can you believe how much activity there's been in the first half of this motor race? Been going now for just on 1 hour.
To update you on the guys who suffered severe damage yesterday, Courtney is back in 17th, Scaife is 18th. And the other big turn 8 crash of the weekend was earlier on Friday. Jason Bright runs 20th. Zinger replay here. Andrew Jones on Jose Fernandez.
Incidentally, fans of Craig Lowndes, another angle of that at turn 4. He's down in 30th at the moment. The computer hasn't scrolled through to that position, but he's a couple of spots down, and here comes a black flag for car 23 again, Andrew Jones, for the incident that you just saw. So a second one in a matter of moments for Andrew Jones. In fact, Andrew's 29th and Lowndes is 28, so I apologise. And Craig's 2 laps behind the leaders.
Ride with your race leader, Greg Murphy. And again, he has stopped for tyres, but not for fuel. This is one of the Fujitsu cars in. I'd say it's Jose Fernandez.
26 it is. They're putting some oil in there as well. These cars have what's described as a dry sump. They don't have oil in a pan at the base of the engine. The oil tank is at the back of the car, and it runs through to supply lubrication to the engine through what's called oil rails through the car. An input line and a return line. So they must have an issue there at the moment with that.
Jamie Whincup has been able to hold Todd Kelly off. As we go on board with Garth Tander, you look at Russell Ingall up ahead. This is the battle for 8th. Tander has made significant progress and now menacing the defending champion. Switch views, looking back at Tander.
He told me this morning that he was one of the drivers that was feeling a bit second-hand. He ran out of cool air in the car like a lot of people because the Eskies just won't keep the temperature out for 2 hours. As he comes down the inside of Ingall, I think he's done it. It'll be marginal, but he gets through without swapping paint. Tander up 1 spot.
Dumbrell's looming as well. He had a quick sniff. There he is in the second Jack Daniels car. The 11. Russell Ingall ran out of his water completely at this stage of the race yesterday. Zinger replay of Tander.
Yeah, did it early. He was right on the absolute limit. He carted Russell a little wide, so Russell saw him coming and just opened up the steering momentarily to avoid the contact, and they reversed positions.
A strong weekend for both PWR Super Cheap Auto cars. Cameron McConville's trying to get his way back into the top 10 while his teammate Greg Murphy leads the way, but McConville has completed both of his compulsory stops. As we ride with Murphy.
Most people will have burnt, if they started with full fuel and haven't already pitted, just under or just on 100 litres of fuel by this point in the race. So very shortly, we're going to see some people having to dive in to take that fuel stop for those that have not ticked it off. The majority just about have now, but a couple have got to get the job done, and this is one of them, Greg Murphy, as John Bauer comes back in and he takes fuel. Opportunity to clean the screen. Single point refueling with both the fuel input and the venting on the one coupling. They're timing the stop based on the flow rate and yank it out and gone.
David, could you hold your alarm button down and re-zero your fuel and turn out your orange CPS lights?
And that's Dan on the radio just asking John to reset the fuel. A button on the steering wheel resets it not only for the readout in the car but for the telemetry back in the pit so they can see the precise amount of fuel that the car is burning on the run. So John took on about 80 litres of fuel then. On board here with Mark Scaife. Let's enjoy this lap.
Seeing a replay here, Paul Dumbrell on Russell Ingall.
Russell must be just hurting a little at the moment for peak speed. He's had a couple of guys put moves on him now down into turn 9. Garth Tander did it. Now Paul Dumbrell might just not quite have the ride or balance that he needs at the moment to be able to aggressively defend. Back on board here with Mark Scaife, turn 9. Slowest corner on the track at just, you see, about 55 k's across the apex. Another car's gone past Russell Ingall. This time it's Cam McConville.
So that's 3 in a short period of time. What's happening with Ingall?
All right, mate, just see what you can do. Play with your bars, bring them both back together, see what you can come up with.
It's Barry Hay on the radio. And Russell's complaining about the car's performance. This is the foot cam shot from Mark Scaife's car through the turn 1-2 complex. Third to fourth, little tap of the brakes to make sure he's got pressure. Heel and toe back to second gear. This is turn 4. A little bit on the hard cut on the rev limiter through 5. He'll go back onto the hard cut on the run up to 6. Little dab of brake just to return load to the nose again. Still second gear here on the run to 7. Uses the clutch to get it across the gate from second to third, then it's all flat shifting. 5th gear, here comes turn 8. Dab of brake, this is where he whacked the wall right there on the left. Back to about 235 k's, make sure that he's got pedal pressure. And then back to second gear. He carries the brake to the apex of the corner. Second gear, squeezes it up. Third, back to second again for 11. Very cautious on the exit. Garth Tander's got radio problems, incidentally. He had a problem yesterday as well. They're now asking him to communicate by flashing the headlights. Often the teams have a code on the dash.
6 blokes in front of you have yet to pit.
The reason Mark uses the clutch from second to third, he doesn't have to,
yes, mate,
but it's very easy to miss shift, and instead of going from second across to third, you can very easily put them into first gear. So by using the clutch, you buy yourself an insurance policy because you can always feel that you've done it. But if it's a flat shift, there's no returning from the problem. So by having the clutch pedal down, you kind of sense, oh, a wrong slotted here, and so you can undo your mistake without having to tell your engine man that you just poked about 10,500 revs on the clock and then he wants to hit you with the busted bits.
Nothing's changed at the front. It's still Murphy, Canto, Wilson. They still must stop.
Motor racing, as I've said many times before, is as much a foot skill as it is a hand skill, and the way in which your feet work in these cars certainly dictates performance. Now this fellow, by contrast, doesn't use his right foot to brake, he uses his left foot. He drives the car more like a go-kart. Doesn't use the clutch in either direction for the up or the down shifts. He perfected that driving the Super Touring car, the Audi, with Bradley Jones. Showed that to the wrong car.
Showed it to Rick Kelly.
Yeah, that's one of the Toll HSV crew, and they're trying to signal Garth Tander because they've got a radio malfunction. Steve McCall was working on that this morning, and we've got another problem. A safety car's being deployed. I understand it could be Kando. Here he is, turn 4 exit. He's gone right across the road, buried the car deep into the tyre wall.
Wow. This doesn't work out too badly for Greg Murphy.
Look at this, here's why. Jamie Whincup made a little light contact there with Canto, and the bloke had nowhere to go, unfortunately. This is the problem on a street circuit late in the weekend. No grip off race line.
Lee, your assessment of Greg Murphy and, in fact, his teammate Cameron McConville is spot on. Just a few laps ago, I ventured in and had a word to Paul Wheel. They were gambling on trying to maybe bring the cars in around lap 50 if they didn't get a safety car. So this is played right into Super Cheap Auto's hands. And also, too, for Garth Tander, they are showing to Garth Tander, conserve fuel, conserve fuel. He has a radio problem. And the message they're trying to get to both he and Rick, I think Rick's radio is working fine, but Tander, as you've heard him, certainly have heard Rob Crawford trying to make radio communication conserve fuel. They're worried about getting the 16 car to the line.
And that was Robbie Crawford holding the sign. Murphy's fueled up, he's good to go.
Compulsory pit stop light, that's what he means by CPS light. So Garth Tander, as Cam McConville comes in as well, Garth Tander took his fuel stop on lap 24.
Oh, and that's Lee Holdsworth. Holdsworth is stopped out in the middle of the lane.
And from lap 24 to the end of this race, by my calculations, you'll need 124 litres to get to the end.
Guys, just as Dean Canto crashed, his teammate Holdsworth came in. He was saying, I've got no electrics, I've got no electrics. They wheeled him in, sent him back out again, and the car cut out. He nearly got in Cameron McConville's way in the pit lane. And the car's doing absolutely nothing now, so a terrible couple of minutes for the Gary Rogers boys.
And as Greg pointed out before, this safety car intervention that people were banking on has come at an ideal time because they were almost out of fuel at this point. So they would have got to about maybe lap 50 or a little into the early 50s. So for Brad Jones, for Cam McConville, for Greg Murphy, this will work out to be quite handy.
So as expected, Jamie Whincup now inherits the lead in the 88. Better electrical Ford. Meanwhile, Lee Holdsworth is wheeled into the garage. And the weather is closing in.
That's looking to the southwest, and that's where the weather's predicted to be coming from. I've seen a radar sweep from about 100, 150 Ks out, and it looks pretty ordinary out there, but the front is travelling much slower than the earlier predictions as they try to pick up the Dean Canto 34 Gary Rogers Motorsport entry.
Been a testing weekend for this man, Jason Bright, after enjoying success at Sebring last weekend in the US racing for the Aston Martin sports car team. His weekly job here in Australia has not gone to plan. Massive crash at the beginning of the weekend, caused an all-nighter for his guys. They did a brilliant job to get the car on track yesterday. Just just a string of little niggly issues for Briding the Cat Ford. The early signs were good, and Dean Canto is back in pit lane. All the red paint on the front left, where he's gone into the tyre wall, the rubber coating, the rubber skirt. And now the Gary Rogers team just assessing the damage. And while he came in for that damage assessment, they also refueled Dean Canto. Was second in the race, but did need to perform that second compulsory stop. Lights are out on the safety car. WPS safety car in. We're ready to go racing again. Back to racing here at the Clipsal 500. Jamie Whincup is the race leader from the two brothers Kelly, Todd and Rick. And someone going very, very slow on the front straight. Is it Paul Radicic? No, it's Alan Gurr for Team Sirame. Perhaps he was just staying out of the way. You rejoin us on the restart lap. It was a very short caution. Will it work Greg Murphy's way?
Just did my own compulsory stop, Lee, and the temperature outside is dramatically cooler than when the race started, and so much different to yesterday.
Look at this, Whincup is in the traffic. He's in behind Paul Morris, but he's got Todd Kelly, and here comes Rick Kelly. They're putting the pressure on. Whincup on the inside of Morris. Will it work? Yes. Kelly switches tight too.
Scaife rubbing with, and Winterbottom's been bundled out of the way there in 5.
So Todd Kelly was able to whip his way by Paul Morris.
Scaife got by. Oh, is it Kelly? I apologise, sorry.
This is at the front. Even though there's traffic, Whincup's trying to work their way through. I don't understand why the safety car picks up these lap cars. It should pick up the leader. Now they've got to work their way through traffic. Whincup is the third car in line. And Winterbottom is staying out of the mix as well. He knows he's not in the hunt up front, so he stays wide, gives them room. Ingle comes charging through. He's got Scaife on his hammer, and one of the Fujitsu cars is turned around, and Courtney is in his second major accident in as many days. And one of the Super Cheap cars, Cam McConville, or is it Greg Murphy? It is McConville. Is smashed heavily. That was the car that came in contact with Courtney. Carnage here in Adelaide.
Yeah, okay.
Well, there was some lunacy there. This is going to take a number of laps to clean up. Massive damage to the Geraldwyn car of Courtney, to the Super Cheap Auto car of McConville. Let's hope the blokes are okay. I heard James' voice on the radio. He said he was okay. There's Paul Forgy. So there's the respective crews. So there were people that were inadvertently tripped
and
up.
Lowndes is in it. Lowndes is in it as well. McConville's on his feet. And that is a heavy hit. The damage bill has been huge this weekend at the Clipsal 500. Yesterday's race winner is out of the race, out of the car, and now young James Courtney.
Neil, I know you heard James Courtney speak, but on the scanner that I had as well, I'm not sure. We need to keep an eye on it, but I'm pretty sure he said he'd hurt his leg, so let's see if he can get out of the car or not.
I heard that too, Darryl. He is out of the car, I can tell you.
Gee, that car's not looking good. Look at the left side of the Courtney car. They worked all night to get that car back in shape. There's McConville. He's okay, but out. Lowndes. This always happens after the field compresses and you have the good guys mixed up with strugglers.
Drink and then eat if you please.
Ludo,
think of your bar and think of your
he's still talking to Whincup, thinking about anti-roll bar changes and trimming the car.
There's Johnny Pinozzo and the rest of the team at PWR Supercheap worried about their man. There's McConville. He's shaken up, and so too is James Courtney.
this is just a physically demanding motor race. If not for drivers, then for the crews that have to deal with the damage and turn these cars around and get them to the non-championship race at the Foster's Australian Grand Prix next weekend, and then in turn get the cars turned around for a flyaway race to New Zealand.
Well, I'd be keen to see a Zinger replay there because there was a Fujitsu car involved. It got broadsided, and from there on in, it was mayhem. And 3 big names there, McConville, Lowndes, and James Courtney. Greg, what do you have?
Lee in the super cheap auto bunker at the moment, and naturally Dave Ward and Bryce Seals and the guys that work on Cam McConville's car were disappointed, but the first point of concern is for Cameron. What Paul Wheel did you hear him say on the radio?
Basically, as soon as he hit, he got on the radio and said that he was hurt. And yeah, obviously, look on camera now, he's walking around and he mustn't feel too bad. But yeah, obviously, pretty big impact and a lot of damage to the car. But that's only a minor point. It's make sure he's right. But brand new car, he's running so well this weekend for the team in his first race. And it's disappointing to actually have something like this happen. And we got to stop go for a driving infringement in the pit lane, and which is questionable probably a little bit, but that's the way it goes, and we move on. I don't know what we'll have to assess the damage from this weekend, obviously for the GP next week, and maybe pull out the spare car and get this one finished, repaired for New Zealand, and see how we go, mate.
At least he's out of the car. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Anybody that was marginal on fuel will no longer be marginal on fuel. So whilst this has got our attention focused at the moment for those that are running, here's the replay. What can we learn here? Winterbottom was going slow.
Look, 3 trying to go through there.
It was because Winterbottom was running slowly, and then the Fujitsu car tried to make it across to the left when he was already being passed by one of the Tasman cars.
Now, that was busy.
Yeah, so this is the aftermath when everyone was trying to thread their way through. Is it 26? Is it Fernandez?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And 3 was Jason Richards. So Jason Richards was the Tasman car, so he was trying to thread his way through. Here we go. So Winterbottom's in the Ford Performance Racing car, Fernandez in the Fujitsu red and blue, and then Jason Richards tries to go through on the left. Jason Richards has touched the left side rear of Fernandez, turned him, and then that's when all the chaos has unfolded. Nowhere to go.
And look, Courtney goes into the Fujitsu car. He tags Lowndes. That turns Lowndes around. And James Courtney is at 90 degrees to Cameron McConville.
And that's where the big damage is done. That's, I wouldn't be surprised, and I said this yesterday and they recovered the cars, but with 2 monster hits on that brand new car in 2 days.
Obviously it went like that.
I'm sure these guys are...
it's all right.
That's Paul Forgy in the foreground, Barry Hay at the back. These 2 guys are the race engineers, the Stone brothers. Guy on the left, Paul Forgy, was the man who helped guide Marcus Ambrose to 2 championships, and now he's got this young guy in James Courtney. He's a little bleary-eyed today because all of his men have worked around the clock. They have not been to bed to fix that car from yesterday. And now look at the dejected faces at SBR. There's Dave Ward from Super Cheap.
Cost a lot of people a lot of money, and the catalyst, the trigger for all that is the slow car of Winterbottom, the FPR car trawling. That's what scattered the pack and changed the natural order of pace and space between each of them.
Some frustration down here at Team BOC as well. The pressure is on. We've still got a long way to run in this race, 26 laps. Cars rolling slowly. We're under the Wright Patton Shakespeare full course caution. WPS safety car on course. If you've just tuned in, you've missed a massive accident involving multiple cars, namely Craig Lowndes, James Courtney, Cameron McConville, Jose Fernandez, Jason Richards. It was a big one. This is what happened. Mark Winterbottom off to the right.
And he's in the red, white and blue Ford going slowly. Jose Fernandez turns across the front of Jason Richards, who makes contact. James Courtney hits the Fujitsu Fernandez car, ricochets into Lowndes, turns Lowndes around, and here comes McConville straight into the B pillar of the Gerald Ford. So Winterbottom slow, Fernandez getting tripped with Richards, and then all of this other stuff. And really the big damage is the McConville Lowndes one, and I suspect, as Glenn Seaton looks on, quiet day for you, Seato, that Cameron McConville may have bitten his tongue, which is why he was looking uncomfortable there before. Glenn's going to drive with Stone Brothers later in the year with James Courtney at Sandown and Bathurst. Had a good yak to him this morning. He's already done a test day, and he's driving their 3-seater car, Stone Brothers Racing, this year. Greg?
Just walked into the 888 Race Engineering Garage. Campbell Little, have you been able to grab a word with Craig and, you know, some sort of radio communication before he got out of the car?
Yeah, we talked with him just before he got out. He, just said he got smacked and, the steering was bent, so we couldn't keep going, but shouldn't have been back there. Basically made a mistake, and I think there'll be a little bit of thought go into the way this new rule with slow cars having to move over straight away to let them go past. I think that's we talked about that particular point's pretty dangerous on the track, but anyway, that's what happens here. It's pretty exciting.
Obviously, you'll need to wait till the car comes back to get a damage assessment, but your initial thoughts, is it something that can be repaired, given that you're a Queensland-based team? Can it be repaired, that car, for for Melbourne in a week's time?
Oh, definitely. It didn't look like much like a big hit. It was, just the way it was. I'm sure if we'd actually got it going, we would have got it going again today, but that's life here. We're all prepared. We'll be working tonight.
Have you already switched your radio over? Are you helping the guys here with Jamie Whincup from here on?
Yeah, the minute that Craig got out of that one, we're working on the other one now. We've got to try to keep it up where it is.
Did you get back to it? Thank you, Campbell Little.
Thanks.
Mark?
Gary Rogers, things were going so well, not now.
Were being the operative word. It's a real bummer, but you just got to cop it and move on. Dean, that's his 4th race for us, and you'd have to say pretty outstanding effort. And young Holsworth, that's his first real go, and to be in the positions they are in at this late stage, you expect a result, but what can you do about it?
You've taken a bit of a gamble going with such youth.
Yeah, I just like the young blokes that they've got a bit of spirit and they'll have a bit of a go and they're prepared to work in well with the team, and I just think you eventually get there with it.
Now, Gary, also you're saying you think there should be a few changes to the Channel 10 commentary team.
I think Grace has been added to the team. We need a bit of happy faces, young ladies in there. I like the style.
I think she's a lot better than Lee Diffie and Neil Crompton.
Well, I don't think we need to argue that point.
Well, Ross Stone's busy with the team going through some details, obviously with the Grand Prix next week. I just said to him, Ross, what are your plans from here on? The Marcus Ambrose car, you're going to pull that out because that's the only other car they have available back at the workshop. He said, that car's not even really ready to run. I'm not sure if we can have that ready. He said Paul Forgy is now going over to check that car out, and we'll have decisions later on today.
Things have been cleaned up. Safety car is off, and we do have the leader at the front of this race. Green flag flies. Jamie Whincup leads the Clipsal 500 into the centre chicane, and he's got the Kelly brothers right on him.
Great recovery for Rick Kelly when you consider what happened to him at the start of the race. He's now fighting for a podium spot, and this will be an interesting shootout between these first 3 or 4 cars. Could even extend beyond that to 4 or 5 cars. They've all got pace, they've all shown it through the day. Whincup cranks it sideways, exiting 5.
Let's not forget about Jason Richards, who was involved in that accident, and Mark Scaife. They came from the last 2 positions on the grid. Whoa, Murphy on the inside. Good move on Dumbrell. Threw it in there. It went sideways. Wasn't the quickest way through, but he did get the position. Now Dumbrell comes back. It's a drag race. And Ingles swerving in the background, looking for a way through.
And right in behind them. Oh, 2x2 through there.
Murphy in the wall.
No.
Murphy and Scaife into the wall. That's 2 days for Scaife at turn 8. Wowee! And we apologise for the language, but you can understand the intensity and the shock and despair. That is 2 from 2.
You could see that coming a mile away.
And Mark Scaife is not a happy man. Greg Murphy and Paul Dumbrell were fighting over real estate. That's Matty Crawford talking. And Scaife will be in a state of disbelief. And Murphy yet to get out of the car as well. They're looking in the rearview mirror, checking that it is safe to get out of the car.
Everybody was told clearly in the driver's briefing, turn 8, unless you are wheel-to-wheel side-by-side, it's a one-line groove.
Watch this. There could be some words here because the radio chat, he wasn't too impressed with what went down. Mark acknowledges the crowd. And he's helped Greg, yeah. I don't think Greg's well. Well, that's somewhat of a relief.
We're watching these replays, guys. I'm with Rob Starr, team boss for the Holden Racing team. You put in such a hard effort overnight to get that car to where it was. It was performing superbly. How do you feel?
Yeah, gutted really. You know, we worked all night last night and Mark kept his head the whole day and he was driving a great race, and unfortunately, as we saw, he's ended up in someone else's accident, and you know, it's just a shame for us all.
We know that turn 8 is always a precarious place and you may not want to get involved necessarily in debate, but do you have a take on what unfolded there?
Oh, obviously, you know, 2 going into the corner doesn't work, and you know, unfortunately, you've got to commit to that corner. If an accident happens and you're right behind it, you end up in a part of it.
We've got another busy week ahead of you, Rob. Thanks.
No worries.
The 2 teams that put in all-nighters have been left with damaged cars again. Here's the Zinger replay. And Murphy out in the dirty stuff, and Scaife was the next car in line. Unbelievable.
And Scaife at that point on the earlier shot was looking to round up Ingle, because it all started back at turn 7 and that changed the flow of the pack and then bunched them up. So here we go. So remember that Murphy dived underneath Dumbrell and then they kind of reshuffled, and then Murphy's out on the wrong side of the road here in the grey stuff. Sideways, Scaife's out there as well, there's nowhere to go. And it's actually back at turn 7 where Greg went underneath Dumbrell, fast entry, slow exit. Dumbrell came out the other side and got underneath him, and what happened at turn 8 was as a result of all that.
Yeah, 2 cars don't fit side by side in turn 8, and the paramedics with Greg Murphy. Let's hope he's all right. That was a big shunt. The man beside him knows all too well what it's like. He had a massive accident there yesterday. And Greg Murphy recovering. Greg, what do you have?
With Larry Perkins Lee at Jack Daniels Racing. Give us your assessment and what you thought.
Well, it's an unfortunate crash for sure. You don't need those things, but you know, there's a pretty clear set of rules, especially for turn 8, and it appears that Murphy may have misjudged the slipperiness of the bitumen out at 2 cars wide, and just didn't have the grip that he thought should have been there.
Thanks, Larry.
Every time you see that, it just shocks you. Now, while Scaife impacted the wall yesterday at 140, that would have been quite a bit quicker then.
Well, this is a race speed incident now. Yesterday he was already well out of the throttle, so you approach it at 235. They all would have been a bit clumsy slow, so it's probably more like about 225 after them all bunching up on the exit of 7. And then across the face of the corner there, it's just a little over 200 odd K, about 205, 210 Ks.
Watch the way that Murphy's car does a double slap on the wall.
So he can't turn it to the right. He's actually found himself in an awkward spot. He needed to be in behind Paul, but he couldn't get there. And
Wow. Darryl.
Well, Paul Wheel, probably no one better to ask than a guy who's still really a current driver and raced here last year. Disappointing day though, both cars now out in a lot of work, but what's your take on that incident?
Obviously, you know, he's just got on the marbles there on the outside of Paul. Not Paul's fault whatsoever. You know, maybe a little bit ambitious, but, you know, hey, I know what it's like. We're racing car drivers. We want to have a go and we want that position. And, you know, Murph made a pass on the corner before, had a bad run out of it. Paul was able to get back out there and, yeah, it's a hard one. It's so hard, you know. It's easy from this side of the fence sitting here watching the TV and seeing what's happening, but when you're in the driver's seat, it's a lot harder. So a lot of work for the boys and obviously quite disappointing, but the two guys in the cars, Murph and Cameron, have done a fantastic job this weekend, and obviously the team's done a fantastic job, so it gives us good confidence for the rest of the year. We just got to get this, hopefully this is the bad one out of the way, and get the GP out of the way and go to Pukekohe, and we know what he's like there.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, mate. Yeah. 4th and 5th yesterday for PWR Super Cheap. This was the corner before, Neil, when Dumbrell and Murphy. There's Murphy making the move on Dumbrell. Now,
and that's where it all started. So you had to, you know, get back to that point to understand how the incident happened. And it was at that point where they all kind of got shuffled, and that's what led to this down here at 8. You know, where Greg went under Paul, they crisscrossed on the exit, they went side by side with the advantage to Dumbrell down there, and then Greg ended up in a position where he couldn't turn the car to the right to get to the grippy groove, and then Mark Scapes basically just followed him in there. But at that point, his eyes were also on the notion of trying to be racy with Russell Ingall. I think Ingall got through unscathed, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. 4th caution period of this race. We had 3 yesterday. This has been incident-filled. There is Ingall, just ahead of Max Wilson. Great drive by Maxie in the WPS Ford. Craig Gore and Mark Larkin will be thrilled with that. Steve Johnson has worked his way back up into the top 10 after that drive-through penalty, so that's a fine effort as well. And Jason Richards now in the 10. Lights out. On the right, Patton Shakespeare safety car. Ready to go racing. Jamie Whincup has just 18 laps to go, and he could be called a race winner in V8 Supercars. Can he hang on? Todd Kelly, great restart. Left his brother behind. He is right there with Whincup.
It's a wild ride through the 1-2 complex, isn't it?
Isn't it? What? About the good comeback drive from Rick Kelly after leading. Black flag drive through, came back. Stephen Johnson has done similar. The first Rock Home Loans Falcon. There he is at the back of this train, right in behind Max Wilson. Ingall is fighting with Dumbrell. Tander just up ahead of him.
Pit lane penalty for Jason Bright, car 6, for exceeding the pit lane 40k speed limit. So Jason Bright's already tough weekend gets tougher.
Jason Richards down on the inside, tries to grab Stephen Johnson's 10th spot. Those two have been dicing it out for a while. Ingall is defending from Max Wilson while trying to get ahead of Dumbrell. So many individual battles going on out there. Good drive, Marcus Marshall, for Paul Cruikshank's Racing in the Glenfords Ford. It's his first weekend as a full-time V8 driver. And this second race this weekend has been impressive for the former champ car man.
The wind has just swept through the circuit. It's gone a lot more southwesterly now. It's like the change has finally arrived. Will that be a factor in these closing laps? Here's Bridie taking his drive-through penalty for the pit lane speed violation.
Right, let's get to the issue at hand. Jamie Whincup leading this race. You've led V8 Supercar races. You know the intensity. He's 23. Can he hang on? Can he sustain this pressure?
His confidence is high. Before I answer that question, Brad Jones has also got a pit lane speeding violation in car number 14. Look, his confidence is high. His car is good. He finished 3rd yesterday. It's a big moment for him. but he's got a lot of work to do. He's just got to keep his rhythm, concentrate on his own car, not get sideways like that, and not allow Todd Kelly to start to ruffle his feathers too much by getting offline. But he's certainly a great little operator.
He's yet another one in a long list that Gary Rogers has given a start to. Add to that list Garth Tander, Jason Bargwanna, Jason Wright. The list goes on. Gary mentioned to Mark before that he loves giving these young guys a go. And that's exactly what he did with Jamie Whincup several years ago.
They both just recorded the equal lap time there, 123.88 for Whincup and Todd Kelly, 24.1 for Rick, and 24.6 for Stephen Richards in fourth. And that's continued great recovery from Stephen Richards after his problems earlier in the weekend. There's Steve.
15 to run. And it's all about points. And the weather continues to close in. Will we see raindrops before we see the checkered flag? It has been predicted.
Looking back from the car in second position at Rick Kelly. There's the battle for fourth and fifth. This is a spirited one too. Stephen Richards and Garth Tander. That's Garth we're looking at.
Look at this zinger replay. Garth Tander at turn 8. And it worked. Got through on Stephen Richards, but Richo wasn't done with yet. Came down into turn 9, but that's the long way around. And the move stuck for Tander.
Whincup leading. Todd Kelly sweating on him. Rick Kelly third. Garth Tander is fourth. So it's 888 HRT. Then the Toll HSV dealer team, Jack Daniels Racing, Stephen Richards and Paul Dumbrell, 5th and 6th. Russell Ingall flying the Stone Brothers flag for Caltex in 7th. Max Wilson, outstanding run. WPS in position 8. His mate Rubens Barrichello's here today. Stephen Johnson 9th, Jason Richards in 10th. There he is in car 3. And Jason Barguana, you mentioned him in the break before, Lee. Great recovery also in position 11.
Well, he started 28th, Neil, 28th to 11th. The Valvoline boys are back out there, and well done too to that car on the left of screen, heavily damaged. Will Davison was a lap down earlier in this race. He is now back on the lead lap, and he is running in 14th place. That's valuable championship points in his debut for Dick Johnson Racing.
James Courtney, you're not going to remember, well, you will remember Adelaide for a long, long time, but not for good reasons.
Yeah, it hasn't been a good way to start the season. 2 DNFs. The second one, I had just nowhere to go. Tried to stop, got hit from behind and then in the side, so it's not a good way to start the championship.
How did the car feel after the real bid last night? Was it a better car today?
Yeah, the car was running really, really well. We had good car speed. When we filled with fuel, we lost a little bit of the car for a bit, maybe 5-10 laps, but then it started coming back quite strong. We had good speed in the end. I think from starting last and being in just inside the top 10, it was looking pretty good, and it's a shame it ended this way.
Injury-wise, you're okay. We did hear on the radio, so you lost feeling in your legs there for a minute.
Yeah, my legs went a little bit pins and needles. I think it may have just been from the impact, but they're both working fine now, thank God.
And what about from here on, the plan for Melbourne? It's only a week away, a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. We had a major impact in the car, and it looks like it's going to be tough for the guys to rebuild that one. We may have to drag Marcus's old one out of retirement and use that. We'll have to see what happens.
It's got some good traits, that car, so it might be good.
It goes all right.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Greg?
Craig Lowndes, we have seen some big accidents here this weekend. Just explain what you saw unfolding in front of you when all that transpired.
I actually don't know, otherwise I would have avoided it. It was something that after the restart, there was obviously a slower car in front going through the first chicane, and there's a lot of cars barreling down through there. Cars got turned around somewhere up in front, and I saw the dust and I backed off, and I saw one of the, I think, Brightech cars sideways, and I actually started heading to the left, and then poor old James Courtney speared out from the right and tagged the left-hand, or the right-hand rear tyre and turned me around. Unfortunately, broke the steering at the same time, so I couldn't get it back. I couldn't do anything.
Craig, I know everybody is an expert in hindsight, but looking back on it now, if that battle with Cam McConville and that incident hadn't happened earlier in the day, you perhaps would not have been in that position.
Oh, maybe, I don't know. Like, Scafie wasn't that far in front of me, so, he'd obviously had a good run from the back of the field. So, restarts are always going to be difficult the way the configuration of it is, and that's something that, we may have to look at. But really, it is a shame because the car was very good. It was very strong at the start. I sat back, had a good look at Cam, left Toddler behind me, and, we did probably push a little bit hard. A little bit unfortunate there, but, we wanted to circulate now and score points, and that's what we were doing. Unfortunately, we got caught up in someone else's accident.
I know you'd prefer it to be you, but your teammate's doing a good job here, isn't he?
He's a little wizard, isn't he? He's great. He's doing a fantastic job. So, if we can pull this off, to have 2 victories with both cars, it will be, be delightful for the team. He's only obviously a young guy. He's got a great and bright future in front of him.
Well done on yesterday. Better luck in Melbourne.
Thank you.
For so many years, Craig was known as the Kid. He's outgrown that nickname now, but he's got a kid as a teammate, and he's doing a mighty fine job up front with 0.6 of a second lead over Todd Kelly. The boys in black are well placed.
23.5 for Whincup that lap, 23.4 for Kelly, 23.8 for Rick Kelly, 3.8 for Garth Tander, 3.8 for Stephen Richards, and 3.9 for Paul Dumbrell here on screen, and Russell Ingall 4.24 even. So the quickest man in that gang at the moment is, by a tiny margin I might mention, Todd Kelly, but they're all basically doing about the same lap speed.
Quick look in the mirror from Russell Ingall. 7th at the moment. He's seeing just how close Max Wilson is in the WPS Ford.
You wonder why Russell looks down. It's to look at the shift lights on the dashboard. They can set them as the driver pleases to warn you of the impending gear shift requirement. It generally illuminates orange or red when it's time to upshift to the next gear.
So the Fords may not have been too prominent in qualifying in the top 10 shootout, but they've come on strong in the race. The blue oval leads the way. And then Wilson, Johnson, Barguana, Bow. There's a string of Fords hovering around the back end of the top 10.
It's a great effort from Max Wilson. Great street fight here in car number 8, there he is, WPS Orcon Falcon. Notice they've got the Cosworth logo across the top of the screen on that car as well. An engine development program, assistance coming from the famed engine builder, owned these days by Kevin Kalkoven, an Australian businessman based in America, owns that UK and US based operation. Remember, Cosworth do the engines for the Champ cars. They also provide the engines for Toro Rosso, the V10s in Formula 1, and also the V8s that are propelling the Williams Formula 1 cars.
Mark, when you see what's happened to you this weekend, I guess that's what makes winning special when it happens.
Oh, look, you know, I mean, that's just the luck of the draw, isn't it? It's a funny game we play sometimes. You know, you come into this weekend, our car was so strong, our speed was so good again today, and you know, probably today I'll be on the top 3 or 4 drives of my career. You know, I thought it was a really solid effort, and the guys did a great job to get the car ready. But at the end of the day, you get in the wrong spot at the wrong time, and that's what happens.
You look at that restart, and we've mentioned it through the telecast stuff. It's so difficult when you restart and there's guys in the front of you that the pace are down, and then the field, eventuates into that situation.
Yeah, well, especially also the tyre grip hadn't come up at that stage. So when Greg got sideways at that fast corner, it hung sideways for so long, there was no way he could gather it up. You know, probably if it had more grip, he would have gathered it up. But you know, again, that's the game. I mean, always those sorts of incidents happen at that stage.
I guess the guys are also, having a bit of a shot at Murphy. Or not really a shot, but he hung on the outside there and he got out in the marbles, and there was no way he was going to get through 8.
Yeah, I mean, even Greg said to me, when we were talking about it before, that he probably should have given it away. He probably should have got out of it and hooked back in behind. But also Ingle wasn't giving him any room, so it was actually hard for him to drop back in. So, tough one.
You've got to be positive though, the cars are strong for the rest of the year.
Oh, look, our car was very, very good today. If you think, last night the boys worked all night to be able to come from the back, lead the race, and then get to a point where we could probably finish in the top 5, shows great, great competitive signs.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.
congratulate all of the fans as Marcus Marshall has come to a stop prior to turn 4. A record crowd of 270,300 over the 4 days, smashing last year's record of 255,000. Well done, motorsport fans of Australia.
Not the current lap that they've just completed. The lap prior to that, Jamie Whincup put 0.7 of a second on Todd Kelly. Did it 1 minute 23 even, which is an outstanding time. And look at the gap that he's opened up now on the run to turn 8. He's coming up behind one of the Fujitsu Brightech Falcons, and there's Todd Kelly in second place. And the last lap, there was only about a tenth between them, but he's generally been easing away, but the lap before last was a cracker.
Quick reminder, before the race finishes, you have the opportunity to win $50,000 in Super Cheap Autos boot full of loot. Now, if you've already spent $20 or more at any Super Cheap Autos store and you've entered the competition, well, you can get bonus entries right now. Simply SMS the code word Murph, even though he's not in the race anymore, as many times as you like. Our Australian viewers, SMS 19778888, and for our Kiwi viewers, 3132. Get in it, $50,000 up for grabs in the boot full of loot. Neil, as you well know, there are races that define drivers' careers. This could very well be the case for Jamie Whincup.
Looks like it. Only a couple of laps to go, and Jamie Whincup's put in a faultless performance, hasn't he? These last couple of laps have been impressive. Whoa!
Hasn't all been tidy, though.
No, you cannot afford to do too much of that. That was a couple of laps back on the exit of turn 11. He just got the right rear across the wrong side of the ripple strip. I'm sure that they've since settled him down on the radio. Be reassuring for Jamie to know that he's got margin now. That'll take some of the heat out of all that. Dumbrell runs a little wide here. Does that allow Ingle to get up on the inside? They touch, but no, it looks like Paul's managed to hang on to that spot. Right rear contact at the back of Paul Dumbrell's Jack Daniels Racing Commodore.
Plenty of contact today, some minor, some major, but for this guy, what a moment in his career. Just 23. He's a former Australian Formula 4 champion. Got a run in V8s with Gary Rogers, then sat out a year. He did the Enduros for Perkins. Came back last year with Tasman Motorsport and was teammate to Jason Richards and almost won Bathurst. The HRT boys were too strong that day, but he and Jason Richards finished second last year on the mountain, and he was picked up by Roland Day and the 888 Race Engineering organisation, and wow, what a start to the new year.
Nearly 2.2 seconds now the margin for Whincup over Todd Kelly. He did a 23.5 on the last lap and a 23.7 for Todd Kelly, so he made a couple of tenths on that lap, so he's got margin. He can probably afford now to just start thinking about making sure that he's absolutely deadly accurate and doesn't make any mistakes, and he'll be home.
2 top 10 results for Stephen Johnson this weekend if he can stay where he is for just 2 more laps. That's a reasonable start to the new season. And I think the boys at WPS will be doing handstands if Maxie Wilson can stay where he is.
Yeah, this is a very good run from him, and we've seen good street racing from Max in the past. Anytime you finish in the top 10 here, it's a great achievement. There he is in the foreground, Stephen Johnson behind Jason Richards. And here is Jason Bargwanna in the second of the WPS entries. Bargwanna has got Paul Radisich right behind in the 021 car. So Jason's had a fair old run today as well.
On board with Bargs now.
He's using first gear to launch off the hairpin in that car. Got a bit of pressure on him at the moment from Radisich, so he knows there's not far to run with the checkered flag, so he's trying to make sure that he's not vulnerable in these last couple of corners, so he's trying to punch the car off the corners as quickly as he can. See the difference in the exit lines. Bargwanna much shallower, which more evenly spreads the load on the rear tyres, where Radisich had to load the left rear tyre more, and therefore a little bit slower just off the exit, and you see that Jason made some gain on him there. Yellow flag up there for the stationary
Linford's Ford.
Linford's Ford, thank you, Lee. Brain fade there. But Marcus Marshall pulled up a couple of laps earlier.
We're almost on our way home. Inside 2 laps. And this is your race leader. Pleasant young man he is. Jamie Whincup. Is 1 1/4 laps away from being a first-time V8 Supercar race and round winner.
It's going to be 2 in a row for Triple Eight. And how fortunes change in this business. It's Ludo, his engineer. And one to go. He's talking about the debris. I heard Jamie was saying, Roland Dane told me that Jamie was saying he struggles a little bit to understand Ludo on the radio. I can well understand that point.
Ludo has quite a thick French accent. Great guy, real character. Has a doctorate in engineering.
I was about to make the point that on Friday, when we saw the top 10 after the shootout, it was covered in red. Holden had a terrific day on Friday, and then how the tables turned yesterday, and once again it's gone Ford's way in this second race. It's still amazing, you know, despite the safety car interventions, only 2.7 seconds separating the top 2 guys after another 250 Ks of racing.
The last time this team won a round of the V8 Supercar Championship Series was on the streets of Surfers Paradise last year, and that, of course, was Craig Lowndes, the man who won yesterday. But it's going to be his younger teammate who carries the flag all the way to the checkered flag. It's wonderful when you get a first-time winner, and especially when it's a young, fresh name to the sport. Remember this young guy, Jamie Whincup. The Gold Coast-based Victorian sends the Ford fans into a frenzy. Whincup wins for the first time. Well done, young man. That will be a day he will never forget. What a race. And Lowndes part of the celebrations, although the race went haywire for him. Superb performance from Whincup. The Kelly brothers, 2nd and 3rd. So some reason to celebrate in HRT. But it's all about Team Better Electrical. How about that?
Spare a thought for Rick Kelly. He leapt away from the front row of the grid, bolted up the road in the lead, did a stop-go, and he's finished on the podium.
The sign says Falcon Power. What about some Whincup whiz? The kid is hot. He did very, very well. Handled the pressure. Imagine coming into a new racing season as Craig Lowndes' teammate. Well, he's not only handled the pressure, he's gone on with it and won in his very first weekend with a new team.
And the official margin at the very end was 1.9 seconds, so Jamie just eased out of it. These blokes will be glad to get out of these race cars after a couple of hard days and think about the carnage and the work that some of the key crews face in this next 7 days, Greg.
Neil, as a driver, you well know about how important a good engineer is in terms of guiding you to some sort of success. Ludo Lacroix, that must feel fantastic. A debut victory, a debut round win for Jamie Whincup. Congratulations.
I'm very happy, and Jamie has done a fantastic job this weekend. He's picked up the pace, and he's just look what has done Craig, and he just copied Craig, and that's just what we need. And for my first time as a race car engineer in V8, we've got a win with Jamie. I think it's beautiful.
It's not just here in the garage that you've been helping him and on the radio. You've been working him pretty hard in a training sense, you guys too, haven't you?
Yeah, we do train together. We do go out and do some bicycling and motocross together. But I think the whole team has just done a fantastic job. We have had some bad luck with Craig. He will come back, obviously. And Jamie, I'm just so happy that he's picked up the pace. He's just proving he's a hero, and he will be one of the heroes of the future, for sure.
Hero of the future, that's well said. How did you keep him under control in this situation today? He sounded like he was really cool on the radio, though.
He had a good car. He knew he had the pace. He just had to do it. I think he's a fantastic driver, so he can do that.
Go and celebrate and enjoy with the team. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, real team performance. And one of those great times in sport. Look at that. The young fella gets out of the car. And celebrations all round. He was a little woozy at this stage yesterday. He was a little wonky. He needed to rehydrate straight away. He seems in better shape today, though. And Lowndes, one of the first to congratulate him. And Roland Dane, the team principal, will be so proud. Lowndes is trying to get him some water. And everyone keeps congratulating him. Lowndes is a star attraction in the Triple Eight team. And guess what? There's a new hero for today, and it is Jamie Whincup. The VB scoreboard shows us the order, and congratulations to the Kelly gang, Todd and Rick. And as Neil correctly pointed out, what a comeback that was from Rick. The two Toll HSV cars, 3rd and 4th, a fine showing. And another team effort there from Jack Daniels Racing and Stephen Richards and Paul Dumbrell. And Ingle, 2 solid top 10s. How about Max Wilson? Awesome performance there ahead of Steve Johnson and Jason Richards, who came from 30th and last, I should say, to 10th. That's a fine effort. Bargwana will be pleased with that. And Will Davison coming from a lap down to finish in 13th. Valuable championship points. And Jason Bright proving you just got to keep on battling and keep on punching away. He finished in the top 15. And at the back of the field there, the guys who were involved in that heavy, scary crash.
Great job.
Whincup thanks the crowd. And he knows what the winning feeling is like. The beginning of his 3rd full season in V8s, and he is a winner.
Garth, a difficult race for you. Communication was a problem. The boys had the pit board out a lot of the times. You had fuel, you had to conserve fuel. Difficult race.
Yeah, it was. The radio basically gave up after 3 or 4 laps, and we just got the pit stops done. Like I went from our meeting before the race. I knew what our strategy was going to be, so I just peeled in and hoped that they were going to be ready, and they were. I lost a bit of time leaving pit lane once because they couldn't tell me when to leave, and I saw Richo coming, and I probably could have gone in front of him, but yeah, it was a tough one. The car was a lot better than was yesterday. You know, I had a real go at Rico at the end of the race there, we just couldn't get to him, so he must have done an awesome race because he had a stop-go, I think, at the start and still got up to 3rd. So our cars are quick. The Triple Eight cars are quick, though, so we've got a bit of work to do.
Well, not as much as some of the other teams around here, and the positive is you're going off to Melbourne next week with 2 straight cars. Yeah, absolutely. We've got lots of points. The leaders aren't far away at all. And 2 straight cars, so we can do some good testing at the GP, hopefully come out of there straight and then get into it in New Zealand. Well done, Garth. Thanks, mate.
Fine effort. Fine effort. He would have liked to have been on the podium, but the high points highlighted. Points, and plenty of them. And now, the next race meeting, it doesn't count towards championship, but it does count a lot toward the rest of the season.
Isn't that a fantastic scene? It's one of the great festivals of world motorsport now, the Clipsal 500. Massive crowd, huge colour, great racing, great variety of racing as well. Many national and international personalities have come out here for this weekend, and been absolutely tremendous. We're going to take a break from the Clipsal 500, and when we come back, we'll hear more from the top men and take a look at the podium presentation.
What a moment there for young Jamie Whincup. He's got Craig Lowndes, the legend, assisting him, and former F1 driver Derek Warwick comes up and embraces him and congratulates him. A magnificent moment in this young man's, well, what should be a long and successful career. And this is the major step. So he's been on every step of the podium. This is the most important one. And speaking of the podium, they will celebrate hard because Triple Eight have dominated this weekend. Let's go to the celebrations and presentation. Here's Greg Rust.
Well, to the people of South Australia, and in fact the fans that have come from all around the country, you've excelled yourselves once again. Record crowds over 4 days. They're calling this event the best touring car race in the world, and it's no doubt why. Would you please make welcome in 3rd place today, 2nd leg of the Clipsal 500, Rick Kelly from the HSV dealer team. I know you're pleased to be on the podium, but you feel it could have been a better step up on the dais. What are your thoughts now that you look back on it on that start?
It was a fantastic start. I'm not sure the problem just yet, but we'll have a bit of a look. I'm happy with their decision. If we jump the start, that's fine. But we got a good start. Powered away for the first few laps and come back from a stop-go to get third. So the team's done a fantastic job to give me that car, and I think we've showed that we can get up there and get that Holden right up the front no matter what.
Most crucially, this is the opening round of the championship. You are just 5 off the series lead, so although there was a drama at the start of today's race, you recovered well. How hard was it just to dig deep and get on with it?
It was a little tough. I mean, we had a big race yesterday, and that took the toll on all the drivers out there, to be honest. It was really hot. So the guys gave me a fantastic car, and we wrung its neck and got it back up there. So I'm really impressed. Thanks, guys.
Great effort by the Toll team right across the weekend. Your teammate as well. Things have started superbly. What a debut for this brand new car.
Yep, she's a ripper. Hopefully it'll be up on the podium all year.
There he is, Rick Kelly, third in leg 2 of the Clipsal 500. And he'll now collect his trophy from Roger Cook, the chairman of the South Australian Motorsport Board. So well done to Rick. Great effort right across the weekend. Second place. It's fantastic to have the brothers here on the podium. Would you please make welcome from the Holden Racing team. Give it up for Todd Kelly. What an unbelievable race today.
Oh, the weather's been fantastic. There was a forecast for a bit of rain this afternoon, but it was dry and it was a great race. Jamie did a fantastic job there. I just couldn't quite get to him.
What was it like trying just to get in a rhythm? We've seen some big accidents at this round of the championship, haven't we?
Yeah, it's actually an interesting start to the season with a lot of those guys out of the points this weekend. So our main goal was to come here and survive this weekend. It sets you up for the rest of the year, and we've done that. Would like to be a little bit further up the podium, but it's a good start.
This car, the Bathurst winning car from last year, she's a good luck charm.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Hopefully it'll bring me a bit of luck through the year.
There he is, Todd Kelly, second in leg 2 of the Clipsal 500. Well done to the Holden Racing team. Tough weekend for his teammate Mark Scaife, but a great effort by Kelly. He'll collect his trophy from the Honourable Kevin Foley, the Deputy Premier here, and they call him the Minister for Motorsport in South Australia. But the undoubted winner of Clipsal 500 in 2006, a debut win for this guy, joining the 888 race team. What about it for a star of the future, Jamie Whincup? You wind the clock back a few years ago. You were standing trying to get a job in pit lane, and now you're back and back with a vengeance. That must feel good.
Well, who can I thank? The whole 888 team. What a fantastic effort. I was running 7th in the race there at one stage, and I come out of the pits in the lead. I'd like to thank all the directors of 888 for coming here today. Better Electrical, Ford, all the Ford fans. Thank you.
You lead this series now by a narrow margin. It's 310 to you, 305 to Rick Kelly, and 290 to Todd. Important now to keep those points going in the bank in future rounds, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. It's a points race. It's 13 rounds. Hey, we've got off to a dream start. There's a long way to go, but I got the team behind me to keep pushing all year.
Tell me about just the car itself and what it felt like toward the end of the race. It just seems as though you've hardly put a mark on it right across the weekend, and you sounded nice and calm on the radio.
Oh yeah, no, the car was fantastic. We made some changes last night. We couldn't quite hold Craig's pace. My engineer, Ludo, thank you. You've done a fantastic job. And I just pushed hard at the end. Todd was putting the pressure on. He had those high beams on, and I was able to drive away.
There he is, Jamie Whincup. Is this not the only time we're going to see you on the podium on the top step of the dais this year?
Well, I hope not. I hope it's a new beginning for me, and I'll keep pushing all year. I'll keep pushing on. Just like to thank my family as well. My girlfriend, Amanda. Thanks.
Jamie Whincup, winner of the Clipsal 500 for 2006. What a future this youngster has in front of him. And to present the trophy, the recently re-elected Honourable Mike Rann, the Premier of South Australia. And the winner's laurel from Eric Schultz, the Executive General Manager of Clipsal Australia. Jamie Whincup wins on the streets of Adelaide in 2006.
How good that must feel. As you saw firsthand, he's not a big head, he's not a big talker. A real nice guy and just gets on with his business. Made the switch from Holden to Ford in this past off-season and seems right at home, doesn't he? Time to celebrate. The brothers Kelly. Isn't that a nice sight to see the two boys from Mildura on the podium? Their parents are here and they'll be delighted. But it's all about that young fella at the moment. 23 years old, and he is a race and round winner. As we check the VB points scoreboard, just the 5 between first and second. As we head to Melbourne for the non-championship round, the next time it counts, for points that is, we will be in Pukekohe in New Zealand. And look at that, with that solid result in the second race, Max Wilson finds himself in the top 10 in points.
And some of the interesting numbers to take from all that, Lee. Craig Lowndes down in 14th place with 160 points. Greg Murphy, 140 points in 20th. And a couple of big guns, Mark Scaife and James Courtney, will come away from this weekend. Stone Motherless broke 29th and 31st, no points apiece.
What about the financial toll, the financial cost of those huge crashes, let alone the points?
Yeah,
what about the dollars?
None of us likes to see that, no matter who your favourite driver or team is. It's very terribly disappointing to see that amount of damage for so many of the crews. Ford Performance Racing went through it. Stone Brothers Racing, the Holden Racing team, a lot of damage out there. It's unfortunate. The good news is that nobody seems to have been hurt, which is good. Greg Murphy and the Super Cheap guys with some trouble as well. And the real difficulty now is turning the cars around, getting them to Melbourne next week. They need to be parked up in the paddock by Wednesday. That'll be an impossibility for some. They'll have to try and either scramble together spare cars, and then they'll need to think backwards from the launch date to send the cars, air freight the cars across to New Zealand for round 2 of the championship in New Zealand. So this will straight away put several of the key teams on the back foot. They'll have to start thinking about how they try and ease the pressure down in the shop, make sure they've got enough spares in the store and online in the manufacturing process to make sure they've got all the machining and fabrication done and right and ready to go, to make sure there's minimal disruption behind the scenes.
Well, there's plenty of stories to tell right up and down pit lane. Darryl is with one of our top 10 finishers.
A lot of smiles down in this garage, Lee, and the reason is that Max Wilson's put that smile on their face this weekend. 8th, Max, fantastic job.
Yeah, we finished in the top 10, which was the target for this weekend. The WPS team did a great job. We started kind of late this season, but the guys worked really, really hard, and paid off today. So I have to thank them for all the hard job that they put on the car, and it was a great weekend for us. We are in the top 10 of the championship now, so it's a good start for the year for us.
It's good that you've done a fantastic job with one of your best mates here, Rubens Barrichello, as well.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to come for all the rounds now. Yeah, he brought us luck, and he enjoyed his weekend too. He said maybe in the very near future he's going to join us here.
Oh, that'd be nice. You get up to double trouble on the Gold Coast then.
Triple trouble. Thanks.
Thanks, Mac.
Thank you.